I always thought the hardest part of a wedding was choosing between chicken or fish for 200 guests. Turns out it's finding out your bride prefers her ex-boyfriend's company 3 days before you're supposed to say I do. My name is Tom Keller, and I'm an architect. I design buildings that are supposed to last forever. Apparently, I'm not as good at designing relationships. It was Thursday night, 11:57 p.m. to be exact. I remember because I was staring at my phone, wondering if Julia was having fun at her bachelorette party downtown. The groomsmen were crashed out in my living room after a relatively tame bachelor party. Drew, my best man since college, was snoring on the couch. Pete and Mike were sprawled on air mattresses, empty beer bottles scattered around like casualties of war. The wedding was Saturday, 3 days away. 200 guests invited, venue paid in full, honeymoon to Maui booked and confirmed. Julia had been planning this day for 8 months, obsessing over every detail from the shade of ivory for her dress to the exact angle of the centerpieces. My phone buzzed. The first text hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I went back to him because he's better than you. I stared at the screen, my brain refusing to process the words. This had to be a mistake. Maybe Julia's phone got hacked. Maybe one of her bridesmaids was playing a cruel joke. Then came the second text. Sorry, not sorry, wedding is off. My hands started shaking. The phone felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I read the messages again, hoping the words would somehow rearrange themselves into something that made sense, something that didn't destroy my entire world in 24 words. What are you talking about? I typed back, my fingers fumbling on the keyboard. Her response came immediately. I'm with Marcus, my ex. We hooked up tonight. Realized I still love him. Marcus Patterson. The personal trainer with the perfect abs and the Instagram account full of shirtless selfies. The guy Julia dated for 2 years before me, the one she claimed was too immature and emotionally unavailable. You cheated at your bachelorette party? I typed, still hoping this was some kind of nightmare I'd wake up from. Yes, and I'm not marrying you. The phone slipped from my hands and clattered onto the hardwood floor. The sound woke Drew, who sat up groggily, his hair sticking up at odd angles. Dude, what time is it? He mumbled, then looked at my face. Jesus, Tom, you look like you've seen a ghost. What's wrong? I picked up my phone and handed it to him without a word. Drew's eyes widened as he read the texts, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief to pure rage. What's that? He said, loud enough to wake Pete and Mike. What's going on? Pete asked, rubbing his eyes. Julia just called off the wedding, Drew announced, his voice tight with anger. She cheated on Tom at her bachelorette party, with her ex. The room erupted. Mike jumped to his feet, nearly tripping over his air mattress. Pete started swearing in 3 different languages. Drew was already dialing Julia's number. I'm calling this witch right now, he said, putting the phone on speaker. She answered on the second ring. I could hear music and laughter in the background, the sounds of a party still in full swing. Hello? Julia's voice was slurred, drunk and giggly. Julia, it's Drew. Are you seriously doing this? 3 days before the wedding? Oh, hi, Drew. She sounded like she was talking to an old friend at a casual get-together, not like she just detonated a nuclear bomb in the middle of my life. Yeah, Marcus is here. We're back together. It's better this way, you know? Better now than after the wedding, right? Better? Drew's voice cracked with disbelief. Julia, there are 200 people coming to this wedding. Tom's family flew in from 3 different states. You've lost your goddamn mind. Marcus and I never really got over each other, she continued, as if Drew hadn't spoken. Tonight just made it clear. We belong together. Tom will be fine. He always lands on his feet. I grabbed the phone from Drew. Julia, it's me. Are you drunk? Tom? Hi, baby. Hi, Tom. Yeah, I'm a little drunk, but I know what I'm doing. This is the right choice. The right choice? My voice was rising, but I couldn't control it. You're throwing away 3 years together for a guy who dumped you because he couldn't commit? People change, Tom. Marcus has grown up. He wants to be with me now. I could hear a male voice in the background, probably Marcus, saying something I couldn't make out. Julia giggled again. I have to go, she said. We'll talk later, okay? Don't do anything crazy. The line went dead. I stood there holding my phone, staring at it like it might explode. The room was dead silent except for the sound of my own breathing, which seemed unnaturally loud. Dude, Mike said finally. I'm so sorry. Drew was pacing back and forth, running his hands through his hair. I can't believe this. I cannot believe this. 3 days before the wedding? Pete was already on his laptop. I'm looking up the venue's cancellation policy. Maybe you can get some of your money back. But I wasn't thinking about money. I was thinking about Julia's voice, how casual she'd sounded, how she'd called me baby and then corrected herself, how she'd told me not to do anything crazy, like I was the one behaving irrationally. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Julia. Don't try to change my mind. I've made my decision. Marcus and I are going back to his place. We have a lot of catching up to do. That emoji. She'd sent me an emoji. That's it, Drew said, reading over my shoulder. I'm driving downtown right now. I'm going to find her and drag her back here by her hair. No, I said quietly. Don't. Tom, you can't just let her do this. She's drunk. She's making a huge mistake. She answered your call, I pointed out. She knew exactly what she was saying. This isn't some drunken mistake, Drew. She's been planning this. The truth of that statement hit me like a physical blow. Julia hadn't just randomly run into Marcus at some bar. She'd invited him to her bachelorette party. She'd planned this. How long had they been talking? How long had she been lying to my face, planning our wedding while secretly planning to leave me for him? I thought about all the times in the past few weeks when she'd been distant, distracted, all the times she'd been on her phone, texting someone and quickly putting it away when I walked into the room. All the times she'd said she was too tired, too stressed about the wedding to be intimate. She'd been cheating on me emotionally for weeks, maybe months. Tonight was just the physical culmination of something that had been building for a long time. What are you going to do? Pete asked. I looked around the room at my three best friends, all staring at me with a mixture of sympathy and rage on my behalf. These guys had taken time off work, flown in from different cities to celebrate my wedding. They'd spent their own money on bachelor party activities and wedding gifts. They'd written speeches and planned toasts. And now they were watching me fall apart in my living room at midnight, 3 days before a wedding that was never going to happen. I'm going to call everyone and tell them the wedding is off, I said, and then I'm going to figure out how to get through this without completely losing my mind. Drew sat down next to me on the couch. We're going to help you through this, man. Whatever you need. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. My throat felt tight, and my eyes were burning. I wasn't going to cry in front of my friends, but I was close. Can I ask you something? Mike said. Did you have any idea? Any warning signs? I thought about it. She's been weird lately. Distant. I thought it was wedding stress. She kept saying she was nervous about being the center of attention, worried about everything being perfect. When's the last time you guys talked about Marcus? Pete asked. Months ago. She mentioned seeing something about him on social media, said he'd gotten really into fitness. I didn't think anything of it. Bastard, Drew muttered. She's been planning this for months. My phone rang. Julia's name appeared on the screen, and for a split second, my heart jumped. Maybe she'd come to her senses. Maybe she was calling to say this was all a terrible mistake. Hello? I answered. Tom, it's me. Her voice was clearer now, less slurred. I wanted to call and make sure you're okay. Am I okay? I repeated. Julia, you just called off our wedding via text message. No, I'm not okay. I know this is hard, but it's better this way. We weren't right for each other, Tom. We both knew it. We both knew it? My voice was getting louder again. I didn't know it. I thought we were happy. I thought we were building a life together. You're a good guy, Tom. You deserve someone who loves you completely. That's just not me. The casual way she said it, like she was letting me down easy after a first date, made my blood boil. So you decided to figure this out at your bachelorette party? You couldn't have had this revelation, I don't know, before we sent out 200 invitations. I didn't plan this, she said, but I could hear the lie in her voice. It just happened. Marcus came by the bar where we were celebrating, and we started talking, and you decided to sleep with him? There was a long pause. Yes, she said finally. I did. The simple admission hit me harder than all the texts combined. She wasn't denying it, wasn't trying to minimize it. She was proud of it. Where are you now? I asked. I'm at Marcus's apartment. Tom, I need you to understand. I hung up. Drew was watching me carefully. What did she say? She's at his place. She wanted to make sure I understood that this is better for everyone. Screw her, Mike said. Screw her and screw Marcus. You're better off without her, man. I knew he was right, but it didn't make the pain any less. I'd been with Julia for 3 years. I'd proposed to her on the beach in Santa Monica, the same place where we'd had our first date. I'd spent months planning the proposal, saving up for the ring, imagining our future together, and she'd thrown it all away for a guy who'd already broken her heart once. My phone buzzed with another text. This time it was from Tara, Julia's maid of honor. Tom, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was going to do this. This is so screwed up. Then another text from Lisa. one of the bridesmaids. I can't believe Julia did this to you. You don't deserve this. And another from Jenny, Julia's cousin. Tom, I'm horrified. My whole family is talking about this. Julia's parents are going to be devastated. Julia's parents. Jesus Christ, I had to call them. They'd paid for half the wedding. Julia's father had given me his blessing 6 months ago, had shaken my hand and told me he was proud to have me as a son-in-law. How was I going to tell them their daughter had cheated on me with her ex-boyfriend 3 days before our wedding? I have to make some phone calls, I told the guys, starting with Julia's parents. It's almost 1 a.m, Pete pointed out. They need to know. They're flying in tomorrow morning. I dialed Mr. Martin's number with shaking hands. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice thick with sleep. Tom, what's wrong? Is Julia okay? Mr. Martin, I'm sorry to wake you. Julia is fine, but I have some bad news. The wedding is off. There was a long silence. What do you mean the wedding is off? Julia called it off tonight. She's decided she wants to be with someone else. Someone else? Tom, what are you talking about? We just talked to Julia this afternoon. She was excited about the Bachelorette party. I took a deep breath. She reconnected with her ex-boyfriend tonight, Marcus Patterson. She's decided she wants to be with him instead of me. Another long silence. Then I heard Mrs. Martin in the background, asking what was wrong. Tom, Mr. Martin said finally, his voice tight with controlled anger. Are you telling me that my daughter called off the wedding 3 days before the ceremony to be with her ex-boyfriend? Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I know how much money you've put into this wedding. I know how much planning. Forget the money, he interrupted. Are you okay? Do you need anything? The kindness in his voice almost broke me. I'm okay. I have my friends here. I just thought you should know before you got on the plane tomorrow. We're still coming, he said firmly. We need to talk to Julia. This is insane. She can't just destroy 3 years of your relationship for that muscle-headed idiot. Mr. Martin, I appreciate that, but I think Julia's made her decision pretty clear. We'll see about that. Tom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is not how we raised her. After I hung up, I sat in silence for a moment. Julia's parents were good people. They'd welcomed me into their family, included me in holidays and family vacations. Now they were going to have to deal with the fallout from their daughter's decision, the embarrassment, and the financial loss. What's next? Drew asked. I looked at my phone. It was almost 1:30 in the morning, but I had 200 people to notify. Wedding guests, vendors, the hotel where out-of-town guests were staying. I guess I start calling everyone and telling them the wedding is canceled. We'll help, Pete said. Give us some names. We'll split up the list. For the next 3 hours, we made phone calls. My parents, my sister, my aunts and uncles, Julia's extended family, college friends, work colleagues, neighbors. Each conversation was a fresh humiliation, a new opportunity to explain that my fiancée had cheated on me with her ex-boyfriend at her bachelorette party. The reactions were remarkably consistent: shock, anger on my behalf, and offers to help in any way possible. Several people asked if I was sure, if maybe this was just cold feet that could be worked through. I assured them it wasn't. By 4:30 a.m., we'd contacted most of the guest list. The word was spreading on its own now. People were calling other people, sharing the news. By morning, everyone would know. What about the vendors? Mike asked. The caterer, the photographer, the band? I'll deal with them tomorrow, I said. Today, I mean. I was exhausted, but I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep. My mind was racing, replaying every conversation I'd had with Julia over the past few weeks, looking for signs I'd missed. Had she been texting Marcus while we were picking out wedding favors? Had she been thinking about him while we were tasting cakes and choosing flowers? Had our entire engagement been a lie? My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. Dude, sorry about Julia. You're better off without her. Marcus. I stared at the message in disbelief. Marcus had the balls to text me directly, to offer his condolences for stealing my fiancée. What does it say? Drew asked, looking over my shoulder. Marcus just texted me to say I'm better off without her. Are you kidding me? Drew grabbed the phone. This guy has some serious balls. What are you going to text back? Pete asked. I thought about it. I could tell Marcus exactly what I thought of him. I could threaten him, insult him, challenge him to a fight. But what would be the point? He'd already won. He had Julia, and I had nothing but a canceled wedding and a broken heart. Nothing, I said. I'm not giving him the satisfaction. I deleted the message and blocked Marcus's number. Smart move, Mike said. Don't engage with that asshole. But as I sat there in my living room, surrounded by the debris of my bachelor party and the ruins of my relationship, I wasn't feeling smart. I was feeling like the biggest fool in the world. I'd trusted Julia completely. I'd never questioned her loyalty, never doubted her commitment to our relationship. I'd been planning our future while she was planning her escape, and now I had to figure out how to rebuild my life from scratch. The sun was starting to rise outside my windows, casting long shadows across the hardwood floor. In a few hours, I'd have to start making more phone calls, dealing with vendors and cancellations and refunds. I'd have to face the reality of my situation, figure out what came next. But for now, I just sat on my couch with my 3 best friends, watching the sunrise on what should have been the second to last day of my bachelor life, and tried to process the fact that the woman I'd planned to marry had chosen someone else, someone who was better than me, at least that's what she thought. Friday morning hit like a hangover, except I hadn't been drinking. I'd been awake for over 24 hours, and my eyes felt like they were full of sand. Drew had crashed on my couch, refusing to leave me alone. Pete and Mike had gone back to their hotel around 6 a.m., promising to return later with coffee and breakfast. I was staring at my phone, scrolling through the dozens of missed calls and text messages that had accumulated overnight. Word was spreading fast. My sister Sarah had called 4 times from Seattle. My boss had texted asking if I needed time off. Even my college roommate, who I hadn't talked to in 2 years, had sent a message saying he'd heard the news. Julia hadn't called or texted since our conversation at Marcus's apartment. Part of me kept waiting for my phone to ring, for her to call and say this was all a terrible mistake. But as the hours passed, that hope was fading. Drew sat up on the couch, his hair sticking up in every direction. "Any word from her?" "Nothing," I said. "It's like I don't exist anymore." My phone rang, Julia's mother. "Tom, honey, how are you holding up?" Mrs. Martin's voice was thick with emotion. "I'm okay, Mrs. Martin. Are you and Mr. Martin still flying out?" "We're at the airport now. We've been trying to call Julia all morning, but she's not answering. Have you heard from her?" "Not since last night." "Tom, I want you to know that we're horrified by Julia's behavior. This is not the daughter we raised. We taught her better than this." I could hear the pain in her voice, and it made my chest tight. "Mrs. Martin, you don't need to apologize for Julia's choices." "Yes, we do. You're like a son to us, Tom. We love you, and what Julia has done is unforgivable." After we hung up, I realized that I might be losing more than just my fiancée. Julia's family had become my family over the past 3 years. Her parents, her siblings, her extended family, they'd all welcomed me with open arms. Now I didn't know where I stood with any of them. Pete and Mike returned around 10 a.m. with coffee and bagels. They'd also brought newspapers, though I wasn't sure why until Mike explained. "We figured you might want to check if this made it into any of the social media gossip sites," he said. "Julia's got a pretty big following on Instagram because of her event planning business." I hadn't thought about that. Julia had over 20,000 followers on Instagram, mostly brides-to-be and other event planners who followed her for wedding inspiration. She'd been documenting our entire engagement and wedding planning process, posting photos of her dress, the venue, the flowers. I opened Instagram and searched for her profile. Her most recent post was from last night, a photo of her and her bridesmaids at the bar where they had had the Bachelorette party. The caption read, "Last night as a single woman. Can't wait to marry my best friend tomorrow." Well, Bachelorette party, das Schreiberin when asked almost married, one's best night ever. The irony was staggering. She'd posted that photo and caption while she was planning to cheat on me. Maybe she'd already cheated on me by the time she posted it. The comments on the photo were starting to turn ugly. Word was getting out. "Did you really call off the wedding?" one person had written. "Girl, what happened? People are saying you cheated?" wrote another. "This didn't age well," someone else had commented, with a series of crying, laughing emojis. Julia hadn't responded to any of the comments, but they kept coming. Her professional reputation was taking a hit in real time. "Jesus," Drew said, reading over my shoulder. "This is brutal." My phone rang again. This time it was the wedding venue. "Mr. Keller? This is Amanda from Riverside Gardens. I heard there might be an issue with tomorrow's wedding." "Yes, the wedding is canceled. We need to cancel everything." "I'm so sorry to hear that. Unfortunately, our cancellation policy is very clear. With less than 72 hours notice, we can't offer any refund on the venue fee or the catering." I'd expected this, but it still stung. The venue and catering had cost $18,000. Gone. "What about the flowers? The music? The photographer?" "You'll need to contact those vendors directly. Each one has their own cancellation policy." After hanging up, I started making the rounds of vendor calls. The photographer was sympathetic but firm. No refund. The band was willing to refund half their fee if they could book another gig for tomorrow night. The florist was the most understanding, offering to refund everything except the cost of flowers that had already been ordered. All told, I was looking at losing about $25,000. Money that Julia and I had saved together over the past year, money that was supposed to pay for the start of our married life. Around noon, my phone rang with a call from Julia's dad. "Tom, we just talked to Julia." "How is she?" I asked, hating myself for caring. "She's at that boy's apartment. She's not the daughter I thought I knew, Tom. She showed no remorse, no understanding of what she's done to you, to our family, to everyone who was planning to attend this wedding." "What did she say?" "She said she's happy. She said she's sorry if people are hurt. But she has to follow her heart." Mr. Martin's voice was thick with disgust. She actually used that phrase, "follow her heart." "Did she ask about me?" There was a long pause. "No, Tom, she didn't." That hurt more than anything else. After 3 years together, after planning a life together, I wasn't even worth asking about. "Mr. Martin, I want you to know that I don't blame you or Mrs. Martin for any of this. You're a good man, Tom. Julia doesn't deserve you. She never did." After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at the wedding invitation that was still stuck to my refrigerator with a magnet. Julia and I had spent hours choosing the font, the paper, the wording. We'd been so proud of how they turned out. Now they were just expensive pieces of paper announcing an event that would never happen. Drew found me there 20 minutes later, still staring at the invitation. "You should take that down," he said gently. "I know, we were so happy when these came in. We spent an entire evening addressing them by hand because Julia wanted them to be personal." "She was probably already talking to Marcus when you were addressing those invitations." The thought made my stomach turn. How long had this been going on? How long had Julia been living a double life? My phone buzzed with a text from Tara, Julia's maid of honor. "Tom, I need to tell you something. Can we talk?" I called her immediately. "Tom, I'm so sorry about all of this," Tara said. "But I think you need to know. Julia has been texting with Marcus for weeks, maybe longer." My heart sank. "How do you know?" "She told me. Not everything, but enough. She said they'd been talking about what-if scenarios. She said she was having doubts about the wedding but didn't know how to tell you." "So she decided to cheat on me instead of just talking to me?" "Tom, I tried to talk her out of it. When Marcus showed up at the bar last night, I told her she was making a huge mistake. But she was drunk, and he was being all charming and romantic, talking about how he'd never gotten over her." "Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you try to stop her?" "I did try to stop her, but she's a grown woman, and she made her choice. And honestly, Tom, I don't think this was a spur-of-the-moment decision. I think she's been planning this for a while." After we hung up, I felt even worse. Not only had Julia cheated on me, but she'd been planning it for weeks. She'd been going through the motions of wedding planning while secretly preparing to leave me. The rest of Friday passed in a blur of phone calls, cancellations, and condolences from friends and family. By evening, I was emotionally and physically exhausted. Drew ordered pizza, and we sat in my living room trying to watch a movie, but I couldn't concentrate. Around 10 p.m., my phone rang. Julia's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello?" "Tom, it's me." Her voice sounded different, smaller, less confident than it had the night before. "What do you want, Julia?" "I wanted to check on you. I heard you've been calling vendors and canceling things." "Well, someone had to. You disappeared." "I've been dealing with my own stuff, Tom. This isn't easy for me either." "Your own stuff?" I couldn't keep the anger out of my voice. "What stuff? Planning your new relationship with Marcus?" "It's not like that. It's complicated." "It seems pretty simple to me. You cheated on me with your ex-boyfriend and called off our wedding. What's complicated about that?" There was a long pause. "Tom, I know you're hurt, and I'm sorry about that. But this is better for both of us. We weren't right for each other." "You keep saying that, but you never bothered to discuss it with me. When exactly did you decide we weren't right for each other? When you were trying on wedding dresses? When we were picking out rings? When we were addressing invitations?" "I've been having doubts for a while," she admitted. "I just didn't know how to tell you." "So you decided to humiliate me instead." "I didn't mean to humiliate you." "Julia, you cheated on me at your bachelorette party and then texted me about it. You told me your ex-boyfriend was better than me. If that's not humiliation, what is?" Another long pause. "I was drunk when I sent those texts. I shouldn't have said it like that." "But you meant it." "Tom? Did you mean it when you said he was better than me?" I meant that he's better for me. We have more in common. We want the same things. What things? What does Marcus want that I don't? He's more adventurous, more spontaneous. He doesn't plan everything out like you do. I almost laughed. Julia, you're an event planner. Your entire career is based on planning things out. You made me create a timeline for loading the dishwasher. That's different. How is it different? It just is. Tom, I don't want to fight with you. I called because I care about you, and I want to make sure you're okay. I'm not okay. The woman I was supposed to marry in less than 24 hours cheated on me and left me for her ex-boyfriend. I've spent the day canceling our wedding and losing $25,000. I'm the opposite of okay. I'm sorry about the money. Maybe we can work something out. I don't want your money, Julia. I want to understand how you could do this to me, to us, to everyone who was planning to celebrate with us tomorrow. I told you, it just happened. Marcus and I started talking, and we realized we still had feelings for each other. When did you start talking to him? She was quiet for a long time. A few weeks ago. How many weeks? Tom, does it matter? Yes, it matters. How many weeks have you been lying to me? I wasn't lying. I was just confused. How many weeks, Julia? 6, she said finally. Maybe 7. 7 weeks. She'd been talking to Marcus for almost 2 months while planning our wedding. While I was worrying about seating charts and menu choices, she was having an emotional affair with her ex-boyfriend. Jesus Christ, I said. Tom, I'm sorry. I really am. But this is for the best. You'll see that eventually. For the best? Julia, I loved you. I was going to marry you. I was going to spend my life with you. How is destroying that for the best? Because we would have been miserable. Oh, I would have been miserable, and that wouldn't have been fair to either of us. So instead of talking to me about your concerns, instead of trying to work through whatever problems you thought we had, you decided to cheat on me. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? Were you planning to wait until after the honeymoon, until we'd been married for a year? I don't know. I was hoping my feelings for Marcus would go away. But they didn't. No, they didn't. I closed my eyes and leaned back against the couch. This conversation was torture, but I needed to hear it. I needed to understand how completely I'd misread our relationship. Are you happy? I asked. What? Are you happy? With Marcus? Is this what you wanted? She was quiet for a moment. Yes, she said finally. I am happy. I know that's not what you want to hear, but it's the truth. Then I guess there's nothing left to say. Tom, I hope someday you can forgive me, and I hope you find someone who loves you the way you deserve to be loved. Goodbye, Julia. I hung up before she could respond. Drew had been listening to the entire conversation from the kitchen. He came back into the living room with 2 beers. How do you feel? He asked. Empty, I said. Completely empty. She's not worth it, man. Anyone who could do what she did isn't worth your pain. I knew he was right, but it didn't make the pain any less. I'd lost more than just my fiancée. I'd lost my faith in my own judgment, my ability to trust someone completely. How had I been so wrong about Julia? How had I missed all the signs that she was unhappy, that she was talking to another man, that she was planning to leave me? What are you going to do now? Drew asked. I looked around my apartment. Tomorrow was supposed to be my wedding day. Instead, I'd be sitting here alone, trying to figure out how to start over. I don't know, I said. I honestly have no idea. But as I sat there drinking my beer and thinking about Julia's phone call, something was starting to change inside me. The devastating sadness was still there, but it was being joined by something else. Anger. Julia had humiliated me in front of everyone I cared about. She'd cost me $25,000. She'd wasted 2 years of wedding planning and preparation. She'd lied to me for months while I trusted her completely, and she was happy about it. She was happy that she'd destroyed my life for a chance to be with a guy who'd already broken her heart once. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without consequences. Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzling, which seemed appropriate for what should have been my wedding day. I woke up on my couch around 8 a.m., my neck stiff from sleeping in an awkward position. Drew was still asleep in the guest room, and the apartment was eerily quiet. My phone had been buzzing all morning with messages from friends and family, checking in on me. I scrolled through them half-heartedly, responding with generic "I'm okay" messages to keep people from worrying. But I wasn't okay. I was angry, angrier than I'd ever been in my life. I'd spent the night thinking about my conversation with Julia, replaying every word, her casual dismissal of our relationship, her complete lack of remorse, her happiness about destroying my life, It all kept running through my mind on an endless loop. Around 10 a.m., Pete called. "How are you holding up, man?" "I've been better," I said. "What are you up to?" "Actually, I'm at the hotel bar with Mike. We ran into some of Julia's bridesmaids. They're here for the wedding that's not happening." "How are they handling it?" "They're pissed, really pissed. Apparently Julia hasn't responded to any of their calls or texts since Thursday night. They found out the wedding was canceled from social media." That was interesting. Julia's bridesmaids had spent months planning for this wedding too. They'd bought dresses, booked flights, taken time off work, and Julia had just ghosted them. "What are they saying?" "Lisa is here, Julia's cousin. She wants to talk to you. She says she has some information you might want to know." "What kind of information?" "She wouldn't tell us. She said she needs to talk to you directly." An hour later, I was sitting in the hotel bar across from Lisa, one of Julia's bridesmaids and her favorite cousin. Lisa looked exhausted and angry, her usually perfect makeup smudged and her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "Tom, I'm so sorry," she said immediately. "What Julia did is unforgivable." "Thanks. Pete said you had something to tell me?" Lisa glanced around the bar, making sure no one was listening. "Julia has been lying to everyone, not just you. She's been planning this for months." "What do you mean?" "She's been in contact with Marcus since January. She told me she was keeping her options open in case she got cold feet about the wedding." "January? That was 5 months ago. Julia had been talking to Marcus since 2 months after we got engaged. She told you this?" "Not directly, but I saw text messages between them when she left her phone on the table at dinner a few weeks ago. They were talking about meeting up and about how they missed each other." My hands clenched into fists under the table. "Did you say anything to her?" "I tried to. I told her she was making a huge mistake, that you were a good guy and she was lucky to have you, but she said you were too boring, too predictable. She said Marcus made her feel alive." "Too boring," I repeated. "That's what she said?" "Tom, there's more. Julia has been telling people that you two have been having problems for months. She's been setting up the narrative that the relationship was already failing." "What problems? We weren't having problems." "I know that. But she's been telling her friends that you're controlling, that you don't support her career, that you're not compatible in bed." The last part hit me like a slap. Julia had been telling people intimate details about our relationship, painting me as some kind of inadequate boyfriend to justify her cheating. Who has she been telling this to? Her work friends, some of the bridesmaids, people in her social circle. She's been building a case against you for months, Tom, making it seem like leaving you is the obvious choice. I felt sick. Not only had Julia been cheating on me, but she'd been systematically destroying my reputation to make herself look better. "There's one more thing," Lisa said quietly. "Marcus isn't the only guy she's been talking to." "What?" "She's been on dating apps, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge. She never deleted them after you got engaged. I saw them on her phone." I stared at Lisa in disbelief. "She's been dating other people?" "I don't know if she's been dating them, but she's definitely been talking to them. She told me it was just for fun, just to see what was out there." This was so much worse than I'd thought. Julia hadn't just had a moment of weakness with her ex-boyfriend. She'd been actively looking for someone to replace me for months while planning our wedding. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because you deserve to know the truth, and because I'm tired of watching Julia destroy people and get away with it." "What do you mean, destroy people?" "This isn't the first time she's done something like this, Tom. She cheated on her boyfriend before Marcus, too. She has a pattern of getting bored and moving on, but she always makes it seem like it's the other person's fault." I thought about all the stories Julia had told me about her past relationships, how all her ex-boyfriends had been jerks, or losers, or emotionally unavailable. I'd believed her, felt sorry for her bad luck with men. Now I was wondering if she'd been the problem all along. "What are you going to do?" Lisa asked. "I don't know yet, but I'm not going to just let her get away with this." Lisa smiled for the first time since I'd sat down. "Good. She needs to face some consequences for once." After Lisa left, I sat in the bar for another hour, thinking. Julia had humiliated me, lied about me, and cost me thousands of dollars. She'd done it all while pretending to love me, while planning a wedding she never intended to go through with. And according to Lisa, she'd done it to other men before me. I wasn't going to be another victim in Julia's pattern of destruction. I was going to fight back. But I needed to be smart about it. I couldn't do anything illegal or anything that would make me look like the bad guy. I needed to expose Julia for who she really was, but I needed to do it in a way that was completely above board. I pulled out my phone and started making a list. First, I needed to document everything. All the text messages, all the phone calls, all the conversations with her friends and family. I needed a complete record of what had happened and when. Second, I needed to protect my own reputation. Julia had been spreading lies about me for months. I needed to make sure people knew the truth. Third, I needed to make sure Julia faced real consequences for her actions. She'd destroyed my life without a second thought. It was time for her to understand what that felt like. I called Drew. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Angry," I said. "Really angry. And I want to do something about it." "What do you have in mind?" "I'll tell you when I get home, but I'm going to need your help." "Whatever you need, man. I'm in." When I got back to my apartment, I found Drew in my kitchen making sandwiches. He took one look at my face and knew something had changed. "You look different," he said. "More focused." I talked to Lisa, one of Julia's bridesmaids. Turns out Julia has been planning this for months. She's been talking to Marcus since January, and she's been on dating apps the entire time we were engaged. Drew's face darkened. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. And she's been telling people that I'm controlling and boring and bad in bed. She's been setting up the narrative that our relationship was failing to justify cheating on me." "That witch. I'm not going to let her get away with this, Drew. She humiliated me in front of everyone I care about. She cost me $25,000. She lied to me for months. And she's probably going to do the same thing to Marcus and whoever comes after him. What do you want to do?" I sat down at my kitchen table and pulled out my phone. I want to make sure everyone knows exactly who Julia Martin really is. I want to expose her lies, her cheating, her pattern of behavior. I want to make sure she faces consequences for what she's done. How? Social media. Julia built her reputation online, and that's where it's going to be destroyed. She has 20,000 followers who think she's some kind of relationship expert. They deserve to know the truth. Drew sat down across from me. "Tom, are you sure about this? Once you put something like that online, you can't take it back." "I'm sure. Julia made this public when she cheated on me 3 days before our wedding. She made it public when she humiliated me in front of our friends and family. She made it public when she started spreading lies about me." "What exactly are you planning to post?" I'd been thinking about this since my conversation with Lisa. The truth, all of it. The timeline of her cheating, the lies she's been telling about me, the fact that she's been on dating apps while planning our wedding. I'm going to include screenshots of her text messages, testimonies from people who know what really happened. That's going to destroy her reputation. Good. She destroyed mine. Drew was quiet for a moment, considering. "You know what? Screw it. I'm in. Julia needs to face some consequences for once." We spent the rest of the afternoon planning. I went through my phone and took screenshots of all of Julia's text messages from Thursday night. I wrote down a detailed timeline of everything that had happened. I reached out to Lisa and Tara and some of Julia's other friends who had expressed support for me, asking them if they'd be willing to share their experiences with Julia's behavior. The response was overwhelming. Apparently, a lot of people had been waiting for someone to call Julia out on her pattern of destructive behavior. Tara sent me screenshots of text messages where Julia had admitted to talking to Marcus for months. Lisa provided details about the dating apps and Julia's lies about our relationship. Even some of Julia's work colleagues reached out, sharing stories about her unprofessional behavior and her habit of bad-mouthing her clients. By Sunday evening, I had enough material to write a book about Julia's deception. But I wasn't going to write a book. I was going to write a single, devastating social media post that would expose Julia Martin for exactly who she was. And I was going to post it on Monday morning, when the maximum number of people would see it. "Are you ready for this?" Drew asked as I sat down at my laptop. "I've never been more ready for anything in my life," I said. It was time for Julia to face the consequences of her actions. It was time for the truth to come out. Monday morning, I woke up with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt since Thursday night. Today was the day I was going to tell the world exactly who Julia Martin really was. I'd spent Sunday night crafting my social media post, writing and rewriting it until every word was perfect. I wanted to be factual, not emotional. I wanted to present evidence, not just accusations. I wanted people to draw their own conclusions based on the truth. Drew had stayed over again, and he was sitting at my kitchen table drinking coffee when I emerged from my bedroom at 7 a.m. "Today's the day?" he asked. "Today's the day." I pulled up my laptop and opened the document I'd been working on. The post was long, probably too long for most social media platforms, but every word was necessary. I was going to publish it on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter simultaneously, making sure it reached the widest possible audience. The post began simply. 3 days ago, I was supposed to marry Julia Martin. Instead, I'm writing this post to share what really happened because I believe people deserve to know the truth about someone who has built her career on helping couples plan their perfect day. From there, I laid out the entire timeline. Julia's text messages from Thursday night, complete with screenshots. The revelation that she'd been talking to Marcus since January. The dating apps she'd never deleted. The lies she'd been telling about our relationship. I included testimonials from Lisa, Tara, and several other people who had witnessed Julia's behavior firsthand. I provided evidence for every claim I made. The post ended with this. I'm not sharing this story for sympathy or revenge. I'm sharing it because Julia Martin has a pattern of destructive behavior that hurts people, and I don't want anyone else to go through what I've been through. If you're considering hiring Julia as your event planner, or if you're dating her, or if you're thinking about trusting her with anything important in your life, please consider this information carefully. Actions have consequences, and it's time for Julia to face hers. This is brutal, Drew said, reading over my shoulder. But fair. Everything you've written is true. That's the point. I'm not making anything up. I'm just presenting the facts and letting people decide for themselves. At 8 a.m. sharp, I hit publish. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within minutes, comments started pouring in. Friends and family expressing support and outrage on my behalf. Strangers sharing their own stories of being deceived by people they trusted. Former clients of Julia's event planning business sharing negative experiences they'd previously kept private. The post was being shared rapidly. Within an hour, it had been shared over 100 times. Within 2 hours, it was approaching 1,000 shares. Julia's business phone started ringing around 9 a.m. I knew this because several people commented that they were calling to cancel their contracts with her event planning company. At 10 a.m., my phone rang. Julia's number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. What is wrong with you? She screamed before I could say hello. Good morning, Julia. I take it you've seen my post? You're destroying my life. You're destroying my business. How could you do this to me? How could I do this to you? I kept my voice calm and level. Julia, everything in that post is true. I have screenshots, witnesses, evidence. I didn't make up a single word. You had no right to share private text messages. You sent those text messages to me. They're my text messages too. And you made our relationship public when you cheated on me 3 days before our wedding. Tom, please, you have to take that post down. I'm getting death threats. People are calling my office and screaming at me. My parents are getting harassed. I'm sorry people are harassing your parents. They don't deserve that, but I'm not taking the post down. Please, Tom, I'll do anything. I'll pay you back for the wedding costs. I'll tell everyone that I was wrong, that you were a good boyfriend. Just please take it down. Julia, did you think there would be no consequences for what you did? Did you think you could humiliate me, lie about me, cheat on me, and just walk away without any repercussions? I said I was sorry. No, you didn't. You never apologized, Julia. You told me you were happy. You told me this was for the best. You told me Marcus was better than me. You showed no remorse whatsoever. She was crying now. Tom, please. My business is ruined. No one will hire me. I can't afford to lose my job. You should have thought about that before you decided to cheat on me. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Julia. Mistakes are accidental. You planned this for months. You were talking to Marcus since January. You were on dating apps our entire engagement. You systematically lied about me to justify your behavior. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. Please, Tom, I'm begging you. The post stays up, and Julia, don't call me again. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Drew was staring at me with something like admiration. Damn, man, you're ice cold. She had that coming. My phone started ringing again almost immediately. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Is this Tom Keller? The voice was male, angry. Who's asking? This is Marcus Patterson. You need to take that post down right now. I almost laughed. Marcus, how nice to hear from you. How are things going with Julia? Don't joke with me, man. That post is ruining both of our lives. Really? How so? I'm losing followers, losing sponsorship deals. People are calling me a home wrecker. My gym is getting negative reviews. Well, you did wreck my home. And technically, you are a home wrecker. So the reviews seem accurate. Look, I'm sorry about what happened with your wedding, but that's between you and Julia. Leave me out of it. You inserted yourself into my relationship, Marcus. You pursued a woman you knew was engaged. You convinced her to cheat on me 3 days before our wedding. You're not an innocent bystander here. She came to me. I didn't pursue her. That's not what the text messages show. I have screenshots of you telling her how much you missed her, how you never got over her. You actively sabotage my relationship. Screw you, man. Take the post down or I'm going to sue you for defamation. Go ahead and sue me. Everything in that post is true, and I have evidence to prove it. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. You might want to check with a lawyer before you make threats you can't follow through on." Marcus hung up without another word. "Marcus?" Drew asked. "Yep, he's threatening to sue me for defamation." "Can he do that?" "He can try, but he won't win. Everything I posted is true and provable. Plus, he's a public figure with his social media presence, so the bar for defamation is even higher." By noon, my post had been shared over 5,000 times. Local news outlets were picking up the story. Julia's event planning business was trending on Twitter, and not in a good way. I felt a twinge of guilt about the collateral damage. Julia's parents, her other family members who were getting harassed by strangers. But then I remembered how she'd humiliated me, how she'd lied about me, how she'd shown zero remorse for destroying my life. Actions have consequences. Julia was finally learning that lesson. Around 2 p.m., I got a call from my boss. "Tom, I just saw your social media post. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Mr. Peterson. Sorry if this reflects badly on the firm." "Are you kidding? Half the office is talking about how impressed they are with how you handled this. You presented facts, you didn't get emotional, you didn't do anything unprofessional. If anything, this shows good judgment under pressure." That was a relief. I'd been worried that the drama might affect my job. "Take the rest of the week off," Mr. Peterson continued. "Paid leave. You've been through hell, and you deserve some time to process everything." At 4 p.m., Lisa called. "Tom, have you seen Julia's Instagram?" "No. What's she posting?" "She's trying to do damage control. She posted a long apology, saying she made a mistake and asking for forgiveness. But the comments are brutal. People are not buying it." I pulled up Julia's Instagram profile. Her latest post was a carefully crafted apology that hit all the right notes. She acknowledged her mistakes, expressed remorse, asked for forgiveness. It was probably written by a PR professional. But the comments told a different story. Thousands of people were expressing disgust at her behavior. Former clients were sharing their own negative experiences. Other women were sharing stories of similar betrayals they'd experienced. Julia had become the internet's villain of the day. "She also lost like 15,000 followers since this morning," Lisa added. "Her business page is getting destroyed too. I don't think she's going to recover from this." Part of me felt bad about the extent of the damage. I'd wanted Julia to face consequences, but I hadn't expected the response to be quite this overwhelming. But then I remembered her voice on Thursday night, laughing and giggling while she told my best man that she was back together with her ex. I remembered her telling me that Marcus was better than me. I remembered her complete lack of remorse, her happiness about destroying my life. She'd made her choices. Now she was living with the consequences. Around 6 p.m., my phone rang with a call from Julia's father. "Tom, I need to ask you to take down that social media post." "Mr. Martin, I respect you, but I'm not going to do that." "Julia's getting death threats, Tom. This has gone too far." "I'm sorry about the death threats. That's not what I wanted. But I'm not responsible for how other people choose to respond to the truth. You're destroying her life." "Mr. Martin, with all due respect, Julia destroyed her own life. She made a series of choices that led to this situation. I didn't make her cheat on me. I didn't make her lie about me. I didn't make her show no remorse for her actions." "She's our daughter, Tom. We love her despite her mistakes." "I understand that, and I don't blame you for defending her. But she humiliated me in front of everyone I care about, including you and Mrs. Martin. She cost me $25,000. She lied to me for months while I trusted her completely. I have a right to tell my story." There was a long pause. "You're right," Mr. Martin said finally. "I don't like what's happening to Julia, but you're right. She brought this on herself. I'm sorry it had to come to this. I really am. So are we, Tom. So are we." By Tuesday morning, my post had been shared over 10,000 times. Julia's event planning business had lost almost all of its social media followers. Marcus had deleted his Instagram account entirely after losing thousands of followers and several sponsorship deals. The story had been picked up by several online publications and local news outlets. I started getting interview requests from reporters who wanted to hear more about the story. I declined all of them. I'd said what I needed to say in my original post. I wasn't interested in becoming a professional victim or turning this into a media circus, but I was satisfied with the results. Julia and Marcus were both facing real consequences for their actions. Their reputations were destroyed, their businesses were suffering, and they were experiencing the kind of public humiliation they'd put me through. Justice had been served. On Wednesday, I got an unexpected visitor, I was working from home when someone knocked on my door around noon. I looked through the peephole and saw Marcus standing in my hallway. He looked terrible. His usually perfect hair was messy, his clothes were wrinkled, and he had dark circles under his eyes. I opened the door but left the chain lock engaged. "What do you want, Marcus?" "I want to talk to you. Man to man." "We have nothing to talk about." "Please, Tom. Just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I opened the door and let him in. He stood awkwardly in my living room, looking around like he was trying to figure out what to say. "I screwed up," he said finally. "Yes, you did. I lost everything. My sponsors dropped me, my gym membership is down 60%, I can't get any modeling gigs. My life is ruined." "That's unfortunate." "Julia's not even talking to me anymore. She blames me for everything that happened. She says I manipulated her into cheating on you." I almost smiled at that. Even now, Julia was refusing to take responsibility for her own actions. "Why are you telling me this, Marcus?" "Because I want you to know that I'm sorry. I really am. I shouldn't have pursued her when I knew she was engaged. I was selfish and stupid, and I destroyed 3 people's lives for nothing." "You're right. You were selfish and stupid. Is there anything I can do? Anything at all? I'll make a public apology. I'll tell everyone that it was all my fault, whatever you want." I looked at Marcus standing in my living room, begging for my forgiveness. A week ago, he'd been on top of the world. Successful business, social media fame, the woman he wanted. Now he was broken, desperate, destroyed by the consequences of his own actions. "There's nothing you can do, Marcus. You made your choices, and now you're living with the results. Just like I had to live with the results of your choices. Please, man, I'm losing everything. You should have thought about that before you decided to steal another man's fiancée." Marcus's shoulders slumped in defeat. "I guess I deserve this." "Yeah," I said. "You do." After he left, I sat in my living room thinking about how much my life had changed in less than a week. 7 days ago, I was a man preparing to marry the woman I loved. Today, I was a man who had systematically destroyed the lives of 2 people who had betrayed me, and I felt good about it. Julia and Marcus had thought they could humiliate me, lie about me, and walk away without consequences. They'd thought wrong. My phone buzzed with a text from Drew. "How are you feeling?" "Like justice has been served," I typed back. And it had. Julia's event planning business was finished. Marcus's influencer career was over. Their reputations were destroyed, their futures uncertain. They'd learned a valuable lesson about actions and consequences. And I'd learned something too. I was stronger than I'd thought. I was capable of fighting back when someone tried to destroy me. I wasn't going to be anyone's victim ever again. The wedding that never happened had turned into something much more satisfying than any marriage could have been. It had turned into perfect revenge. 2 weeks after my social media post went viral, I thought the worst was behind me. Julia and Marcus had both disappeared from public view, their social media accounts either deleted or dormant. The news cycle had moved on to other stories. I was finally starting to feel like I could move forward with my life. I was wrong. It was a Friday evening, and I was at home working on some architectural drawings when my building's security buzzer rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, but I assumed it was a delivery, or maybe one of my neighbors who'd forgotten their key. "Hello?" I said into the intercom. "Tom, it's Julia. I need to talk to you." My blood ran cold. I hadn't heard her voice since our phone call 2 weeks ago, when she'd begged me to take down my post. "We have nothing to talk about, Julia. Please, Tom, just 5 minutes. I'm not leaving until you talk to me." I could hear the desperation in her voice, but I also heard something else, a hardness that hadn't been there before. "Fine, 5 minutes." I buzzed her up, then immediately called Drew. "Julia's here," I said when he answered. "She wants to talk." "Do you want me to come over?" "No, but stay on the phone. I'm going to put you on speaker so you can hear what she says." Good idea. Be careful, man." There was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Julia standing in my hallway, and I barely recognized her. She'd lost weight, her usually perfect hair was limp and unwashed, and she was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie instead of her usual designer clothes. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside and let her enter. She walked into my living room and turned to face me, her arms crossed defensively. "You destroyed my life," she said without preamble. "You destroyed your own life. I just told people what you did." "I lost everything, Tom. My business is gone. I can't get another job in event planning because everyone in the industry has seen your post. I had to move back in with my parents. I'm broke." "I'm sorry to hear that, but it's not my fault." "Yes, it is." Her voice was rising, becoming shrill. You could have just let it go. You could have moved on. But instead, you decided to destroy me. Julia, you cheated on me 3 days before our wedding. You humiliated me in front of everyone I care about. You lied about me to justify your behavior. What did you think was going to happen? I thought you'd be hurt and angry for a while, and then you'd get over it and move on with your life. I didn't think you'd try to destroy me. I didn't try to destroy you. I told the truth about what you did. The fact that the truth destroyed you says more about your actions than it does about mine. Julia's face was flushed with anger now. You're enjoying this, aren't you? You're enjoying watching me suffer. I'm not enjoying your suffering, Julia, but I'm not sorry about it either. You made choices, and those choices had consequences. It's time you learned that. You self-righteous asshole, she spat. You act like you're so perfect, like you never did anything wrong in our relationship. What did I do wrong? Please, enlighten me. You were boring. You were predictable. You never surprised me, never did anything spontaneous. You planned everything down to the minute. Being with you was like being married to a calendar. So instead of talking to me about that, instead of trying to work on our relationship, you decided to cheat on me? I tried to talk to you, but you never listened. You were so focused on your precious plans and schedules that you never paid attention to what I actually wanted. This was news to me. When did you try to talk to me about this? All the time. I'd suggest doing something spontaneous, and you'd want to plan it out first. I'd want to travel somewhere new, and you'd want to research it for weeks before making a decision. I felt like I was suffocating. Julia, planning things isn't a character flaw. It's called being responsible. And if you felt like you were suffocating, why didn't you just break up with me? Why did you have to cheat? Because I thought I could learn to live with it. I thought maybe I was being unrealistic, expecting too much excitement. But then Marcus came back into my life, and I remembered what it felt like to be with someone who actually understood me. Someone who understood you, I repeated. Is that why he dumped you after my post went viral? Because he understood you so well? Julia's face crumpled. He said the drama was too much. He said he couldn't handle the negative attention. So the great love of your life abandoned you the moment things got difficult. How romantic. Shut up, she said, tears starting to flow. Just shut up. Julia, why are you here? What do you want from me? She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I want you to post an update. Tell people that you exaggerated, that it wasn't as bad as you made it seem. Tell them that we both made mistakes. Absolutely not. Tom, please, I'm begging you. I can't rebuild my life with that post hanging over me. Every time someone Googles my name, your story comes up. I can't get a job, I can't date anyone, I can't move on. You should have thought about that before you decided to humiliate me. I was drunk. I made a mistake. You weren't drunk when you were talking to Marcus for 5 months. You weren't drunk when you were on dating apps during our entire engagement. You weren't drunk when you were telling people I was boring and bad in bed. This wasn't a drunken mistake, Julia. This was a pattern of deception and betrayal. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see something shifting in her expression. The desperation was being replaced by something darker. You know what? She said, her voice turning cold. Maybe I was wrong about you. Maybe you're not boring. Maybe you're just a vindictive asshole who gets off on destroying people. If that's what you want to think. I hope you're happy, Tom. I hope ruining my life was worth it. It was. The honesty of my response seemed to shock her. She'd probably expected me to deny it, to claim I didn't enjoy her suffering. You're sick, she said. I'm honest. You destroyed my life without a second thought, and you expected me to just take it quietly. You were wrong. Julia stood up abruptly. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have come here. No, you shouldn't have. She walked toward my door, then turned back to face me. You know what the funny thing is, Tom? I actually did love you. Not the way I loved Marcus, but I did love you. And I thought maybe, after some time passed, we could find a way to be friends. We'll never be friends, Julia. No, she said sadly. I guess we won't. After she left, I picked up my phone. Drew was still on the line. Did you hear all of that? I asked. Every word. Jesus, Tom, she's completely delusional. She actually thought I'd help her rebuild her reputation. The woman has no concept of consequences. Even now, after everything that's happened, she still thinks she's the victim. I walked to my window and looked down at the street below. I could see Julia walking away from my building, her shoulders hunched against the cold. She looked small and defeated, nothing like the confident woman who had broken my heart 2 weeks ago. For a moment, I felt a twinge of sympathy. Then I remembered her laughing on the phone with Drew, telling him she was back together with Marcus. I remembered her telling me that Marcus was better than me. I remembered her complete lack of remorse. The sympathy disappeared. "Are you okay?" Drew asked. "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually." Seeing her like that, broken, desperate, facing the consequences of her actions, it's exactly what I needed. Good. She deserved everything she got. Yes, she did. After I hung up with Drew, I sat in my living room thinking about Julia's visit. She'd come here hoping to manipulate me into helping her, just like she'd manipulated me throughout our relationship. She'd probably expected me to feel sorry for her, to want to rescue her like I always had before. But I wasn't the same man who had been devastated by her betrayal 2 weeks ago. I was stronger now, harder. I'd learned that sometimes the only way to deal with people who try to destroy you is to destroy them first. Julia had taught me that lesson, and I'd taught it back to her. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This isn't over." I stared at the message for a moment, then blocked the number. Julia was still trying to have the last word, still trying to maintain some kind of power over me. But she had no power over me anymore. She was a broken woman living with her parents, unemployed and unemployable, abandoned by the man she'd thrown away our relationship for. And I was free. Free from her lies, her manipulation, her complete disregard for anyone but herself. Free to build a new life with someone who would actually appreciate what I had to offer. Julia had done me a favor by cheating on me. She'd saved me from a lifetime of being married to someone who didn't respect me, who saw me as boring and predictable, who was always looking for something better. Now she was the one who was alone, and I was the one with unlimited possibilities ahead of me. The revenge was complete. Over the next few days, I heard through mutual friends that Julia was struggling even more than I'd realized. She'd applied for dozens of jobs, but couldn't get hired anywhere because of her destroyed reputation. She'd tried to start dating again, but men would Google her name and immediately lose interest. Marcus, meanwhile, had moved back to his hometown in another state, his fitness influencer career completely finished. His gym had failed, his sponsorship deals were gone, and he was reportedly working at a regular gym as a basic personal trainer. Both of them had learned a hard lesson about the consequences of betrayal. As for me, I was thriving. My architectural firm had given me a promotion, partly because of how professionally I'd handled the crisis. I'd started dating again, and I was amazed by how much more confident I felt. I knew my worth now, and I wasn't willing to settle for anyone who didn't appreciate it. 3 months after the wedding that never happened, I ran into Lisa at a coffee shop downtown. "Tom," she said, giving me a hug. "How are you doing?" "I'm great, really great. How are you?" "I'm good. Listen, I wanted to thank you for what you did. Julia needed to face consequences for her behavior, and you were the first person who ever made that happen." "How is she doing?" Lisa's expression darkened. "Not well. She's still living with her parents, still can't find work. She's become pretty bitter about the whole thing. She blames you for everything." "Of course she does." "The thing is, Tom, I don't think she's learned anything from this. She still doesn't take responsibility for what she did. She still thinks she's the victim." "That's not my problem anymore." "No, it's not. And I'm glad you don't feel guilty about it. Julia made her choices, and she's living with the consequences. That's how life works." As I walked home from the coffee shop, I reflected on how much my life had changed. 6 months ago, I was planning a wedding with a woman who was secretly betraying me. Now I was living my best life, free from her toxicity and manipulation. Julia had thought she was trading up when she chose Marcus over me. Instead, she'd traded away the best relationship she'd ever had for a man who abandoned her the moment things got difficult. The irony was perfect, and the best part was, I knew that every day for the rest of her life, Julia would have to live with the knowledge that she'd destroyed her own happiness. She'd had a good man who loved her, and she'd thrown it away for a fantasy that turned out to be nothing. That was a kind of justice that no court could provide. That evening, I was at home working when my phone rang. It was Drew. "Turn on Channel 7, he said. "You're going to want to see this." I turned on the local news and saw a story about social media justice and public shaming. They were using my situation with Julia as a case study, discussing whether my response had been appropriate or had gone too far. The reporter interviewed several people, including a relationship expert who said that while Julia's behavior was inexcusable, the public response had been disproportionately harsh. I didn't agree. Julia had built her career on social media, using her platform to present herself as an expert on relationships and weddings. When her true character was revealed, she lost that platform. That wasn't disproportionate. That was appropriate. You can't build a career on helping people plan their perfect day when you're the kind of person who destroys perfect days for your own selfish reasons. The story concluded with a brief statement from Julia, given through her lawyer, saying that she regretted her actions and was working to rebuild her life. I turned off the TV and went back to my work. Julia could spend the rest of her life regretting her actions, but it wouldn't change anything. The damage was done, the consequences were permanent, and the lesson was learned. She'd wanted to know what it felt like to be with someone better than me. Now she knew what it felt like to be with no one at all, and that was exactly what she deserved. Epilogue. 1 year later. It's been exactly 1 year since the wedding that never happened, and I'm sitting in my favorite coffee shop, working on designs for a new project. Life has a funny way of working out sometimes. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah, the woman I've been dating for the past 6 months. She's a pediatric nurse with a laugh that lights up rooms and a sense of humor that matches mine perfectly. We met at a friend's party, and when she asked me about my relationship history, I told her the whole story about Julia and Marcus. Her response was perfect. Well, their loss is my gain. Can't wait to see you tonight, her text reads. I made reservations at that Italian place you mentioned. I smile as I type back. Looking forward to it. Love you. It's the first time I've said those words to anyone since Julia, and they feel right. Sarah is everything Julia never was. Honest, loyal, supportive, and genuinely interested in building something real together. As I'm putting my phone away, I see a familiar face across the coffee shop. It's Tara, Julia's former maid of honor. She spots me at the same time and walks over. Tom, how are you? I'm great, Tara. Really great. How are things with you? Good. Listen, I hope this isn't weird, but I wanted to update you on Julia. I'm curious despite myself. How is she? Tara sits down across from me. She moved to Portland about 3 months ago. Started over with a new name. She's going by her middle name now, Marie. She got a job at a small event planning company there. Good for her. The thing is, Tom, I don't think she's changed at all. I heard from a mutual friend that she's already dating her boss, and he's married. I shake my head. Some people never learn. She asked me to reach out to you, actually. She wanted me to ask if you'd consider taking down your original post. She says it's still affecting her ability to build a new life. And what did you tell her? I told her she was insane if she thought you'd help her after everything she did. I also told her that maybe if she stopped trying to date married men, she wouldn't need to worry about her reputation. I laugh. Good answer. Tom, I want you to know that what you did was right. Julia needed to face consequences for her actions, and you were the only person who ever held her accountable. I'm glad you didn't let her get away with it. After Tara leaves, I sit there thinking about Julia's request. Part of me, a very small part, feels sorry for her. But then I remember that she's apparently already back to her old patterns, pursuing unavailable men and causing drama wherever she goes. Some people are just destructive by nature, and Julia is one of them. The world is better off knowing what kind of person she really is. My phone rings. It's Drew. Hey man, what are you up to? Just working. What's up? I just got some interesting news. Remember Marcus? Unfortunately. He's engaged. Really? To who? Some woman he met at his new gym in Ohio. Apparently he proposed after dating her for 3 months. Wow, that's fast. Here's the funny part. I heard from a mutual friend that he told his fiancée that his ex-girlfriend was crazy and vindictive, and that she ruined his life with lies on social media. I almost laugh out loud. Even now, Marcus is rewriting history to make himself look like the victim. Did he tell her the truth about what actually happened? Are you kidding? He told her that Julia was obsessed with him, and that when he rejected her, she made up a story about them sleeping together to ruin his relationship with you. That's quite a story. The best part is that his fiancée apparently Googled Julia's name and found your original post. She asked Marcus about it, and he stuck to his story, so either she believes him or she doesn't care. Either way, not my problem. Exactly, but I thought you'd find it amusing that he's still lying about what happened. After we hang up, I think about how both Julia and Marcus have dealt with the consequences of their actions. Julia is trying to start over in a new city, but apparently hasn't learned anything from her experience. Marcus is engaged to someone new, but is still lying about what happened between us. Neither of them has taken real responsibility for their behavior, which means neither of them has really grown from the experience. But that's not my concern anymore. I did what I needed to do, and I've moved on with my life. They can deal with their own issues. I close my laptop and head home to get ready for my date with Sarah. As I'm walking down the street, I think about how different my life is now compared to a year ago. A year ago, I was planning to marry someone who was betraying me. I was naive, trusting, willing to overlook red flags because I wanted to believe in the fairy tale. Now I'm with someone who actually deserves my trust, someone who would never dream of betraying me the way Julia did. I'm stronger, wiser, more confident in my own worth. Julia thought she was trading up when she chose Marcus over me. Instead, she taught me exactly what I didn't want in a partner and helped me become the kind of man who wouldn't settle for less than I deserve. In a twisted way, I owe her a debt of gratitude. Her betrayal was the best thing that ever happened to me. That evening, Sarah and I are having dinner at the Italian restaurant when she brings up something that's been on her mind. Tom, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever regret posting that story about Julia? I mean, it pretty much destroyed her life. I think about it for a moment. No, I don't regret it. Julia made choices that hurt a lot of people. Me, her family, our friends, everyone who was planning to attend our wedding. She showed no remorse for any of it. She needed to face consequences for her actions. But don't you think the punishment was maybe a little harsh? I mean, she lost her career, her reputation, everything. Sarah, Julia built her career on helping people plan their weddings and relationships. She presented herself as an expert on love and commitment. When people found out what kind of person she really was, someone who cheats on her fiancé 3 days before the wedding, they didn't want her help anymore. That's not harsh. That's just logical. Sarah nods thoughtfully. I guess you're right. If someone is going to build their career on their personal brand, they have to be prepared for the consequences when that brand gets damaged. Exactly. And besides, I didn't make Julia cheat on me. I didn't make her lie about me to justify her behavior. I didn't make her show no remorse for her actions. I just told people what she did. The fact that the truth destroyed her says everything about her character. You know what I love about you? Sarah says, reaching across the table to take my hand. What? You don't let people walk all over you. You stand up for yourself. That's incredibly attractive. I squeeze her hand. I learned that lesson the hard way. Well, I'm glad you learned it, because it means I get to be with the man you became, not the man you were. As we walk home from dinner, I think about Sarah's words. She's right. I'm not the same man I was a year ago. I'm stronger, more confident, less willing to accept bad behavior from people I care about. Julia and Marcus thought they could humiliate me and walk away without consequences. They learned otherwise. And now I'm living my best life while they're both still dealing with the fallout from their choices. It's been exactly 1 year since Julia sent me that text saying Marcus was better than me. Turns out she was wrong about that. She was wrong about everything.